Hello and welcome to Craft with Sarah and day 9 of the Easter Craft Countdown, where I'm sharing new Easter Cricut paper craft projects every day for 10 days. Today's project is shaker toppers. I've shared with you 5 different Easter themed shaker toppers, and I'll show you how to put them together into a greetings card, how to make them, and even how to cut craft foam on your Cricut machine to perfectly seal all of these little shakers. Let's get started! If you haven't already registered your free ticket for the Easter Craft Countdown, go to craftwithsarah.com/Easter to do so. Click any of the sign up buttons on the page and enter your name and email to register. Once registered, check your inbox for an email from me with subject line Easter Craft Countdown ticket information, or any of the other emails from me that you've been sent throughout the countdown. Can't find them? Check your junk or spam box to see if they've gone there by mistake. These emails contain the link to view the countdown projects and download today's files. Scroll down the page to find today's project. Click the button to start the files automatically downloading to your computer or mobile device. Each download is only available for free for 24 hours after it goes live. If you've missed some, check out craftwithsarah.com/Easter bundle to purchase immediate and ongoing access to all of the files from the Easter Craft Countdown. Each file will also be available to purchase individually from my SVG shop once the free version has expired. All downloads come in zip folders. You need to unzip them before you can upload the files into Cricut Design Space. Once you've downloaded and unzipped the folder, it's time to get the files into Cricut Design Space. Open up Design Space and start a new project, and then get into Upload over on the left, and then Upload Image. You can then either click Browse to find the files on your computer, or drag and drop them in. Make sure you choose the unzipped version of the folder, and then I've put all 5 shaker designs in the same SVG file to make it quicker to upload. Choose the file which starts SVG in the file name, and then it will look like this. Don't be worried that it looks a little bit funky with all of that bright green. I'm going to explain exactly what that means in a moment. Press Upload, and then click it to get the green border, and press Add to Canvas. For some reason, these are loading in really small. I'm not quite sure why that is. I'm going to make them a bit bigger, and I thoroughly recommend that you make them bigger too. We'll get the exact sizing right at the end, but first I want to show you a little bit about these files so you can see why it's got all these funky colours and why each one is so many layers. Alright, so let's click on this and then press Ungroup at the top, and that will separate out each of the 5 separate shakers. I'll use, let's go for the bunny as my example because this is probably the simplest one to show you. You can see in the Layers panel, this is 4 separate layers. And if I ungroup this, I can drag them apart to show you what they are. Alright, so on all of these shaker images, they all have a pink and a green layer. The pink layers are to be cut out from craft foam. And this is what we'll put onto our base piece, which will be cut from brown card on my bunny. This will be cut from foam and then glued onto there, and that will give me a nice little area to put all of my sequins and sparkly bits inside. And then the green shapes will be cut from acetate, so a nice transparent material, which will then be glued on the top here. So it's showing as green here, but actually it'll be transparent, which means you'll be able to see all of the little sparkly bits in there. And because it's going to glue exactly to the top of the foam, it'll be perfectly sealed, so you aren't going to get any little bits escaping. And then to cover up the glue marks around the edge, all of the designs have a separate bit to go on top, which will be cut from cardstock. So when it's actually stuck together, you're not going to see the pink and the green. Well, you will see the green, but it'll be transparent. It won't appear as green. What you'll see is this, but with all of your sparkly sequin bits in the middle. And that's why all of these designs have the extra layers on them. So I'm just going to position those back in place and regroup them. And then it's up to you how you want to make these. You could just resize them to however big you want to make them and cut them out freestyle. But what I'm going to do is actually design a little card onto my screen. And I think I will do a card using the 2 eggs. So let's delete everything else. I'm just clicking it and pressing delete on my keyboard, or you can press delete up here. And I'll move these to one side. I will make let's say a 5 by 7 inch card. That's my favorite type of card to make. So we'll go into shapes and choose a rectangle. And then untick that padlock. My width will be 10 inches, double 5, because I'm going to fold it down the middle. And then my height will be 7. Let's make it maybe a white colour. And then I'll add a score line down the middle. So let's go shapes and choose a score line. And then set that to the height of my card. Drag a box around them to select them and go to align and center to put the score line right down the middle. And then to tell the Cricut that we want it to do the score line on this rectangle, we have to attach the layers by clicking attach. Let's add a couple of other rectangles to the front in different colours of card just to make it look a little bit more exciting. I'll go into shapes and choose another square, and I think I'll probably end up cutting this from some nice patterned card or something. So let's make this a bit smaller so I can see some of that. Let's go 6 inches wide, 4 inches wide, sorry, and 6 inches tall. So I'm taking 1 inch off all of the sides, and I'll make that purple, and then I'll duplicate this and make it maybe a light purple. I'm not sure. I'll probably change the colours when I'm actually cutting it out, but I'm just making it so that you can see it. I'll take 1/4 of an inch off each side, so 3.75 by 5.75, and put that in the middle. There we go. And then select all of that and group it, and then go arrange, center back, which means it's now at the bottom of my layers panel, so I can play about with the eggs, work out what size I want them to be. There, I think that'll look really nice. And then I've got a couple of little spaces on the corners where I might add some stickers or maybe a little sentiment that says Happy Easter or something like that. But I'll decide that once it's all cut out. Now, you don't have to design your cards in Design Space like I've just done, but I find it really helpful to know that everything's going to fit and be exactly the right size once it's cut out. I probably won't do my eggs in these colours though. But again, I'm going to decide that once I actually know what papers I'm going to use. So for now, I'll leave it like that. I'll just change this purple so that it's not the same as my border so I don't get confused, which I do get fairly easily. Now remember, when you click Make It, when you get to the lime green eggs, these need to be cut out from acetate. So a see-through thin plastic, something like that. Acetate works really, really well. And I will show you how to select that material type on your Cricut in a moment. But also, when you do these layers, the bright pink layers, this needs to be cut from craft foam. I have tried cutting craft foam with the deep point blade on a Cricut, and I could not get it to cut at all. It was barely even scoring it. It just wasn't going through at all. So I ended up using the knife blade, and that works fantastically for craft foam. However, the knife blade is only suitable for the Maker or the Maker 3 machine. If you don't have one of those machines and you still want to make this with craft foam, then you could try cutting these bits out from cardstock and then tracing them onto some foam and cutting them out with scissors. For some of the designs, that'll be easier than others. Another way you can do it is to cut these from cardstock and just cut several copies of them and then layer them one on top of the other to build up the thickness. And that way, all your glitter and sequins will still be contained. If you want to do that, I'd suggest using a thick cardstock, or even better, craft board would be brilliant for that. And what you'd need to do is, before you click Make It, just find your pink layers. So let's find one of them, move that over, and then the other one, ungroup it, move that pink one. And then I'd probably do maybe 4 copies of each of them if I was cutting it from cardstock instead of foam. The thicker the cardstock, the less you'll need, but 4 for thick cardstock would be good. If you're using regular cardstock, maybe 6 or 8, just because if it's not that thick, you're not going to be able to fit much in the shaker. But as I said, I do have the maker, so I'll be doing this from the craft foam. Here's a little excerpt from a video I did a little while ago on how to cut the craft foam with a Cricut machine. The blade I'm going to be using to cut my craft foam is the knife blade, which is for the Maker or the Maker 3 only. And this looks like a little scalpel, and it is the best way, in my opinion, of cutting through the craft foam. I have never had success with it personally, but a lot of people have cut craft foam with the deep point blade. So if you've got the Explorer 2 or 3, then you can try the deep point blade, or likewise if you've got the Maker or Maker 3 but don't have the knife blade, try the deep point blades. If you've got one of them, they just go in your normal blade holder. So you take this one out with a pair of tweezers. Don't try and pull it like I did once and slice my finger open, and then drop one of these blades in instead. When I tried that a couple of years ago, I couldn't actually get it to cut all the way through the foam, but maybe it's changed since then. I haven't tried because I've always used the knife blade since. So yeah, it's up to you which one you try, but I recommend the knife blade. Here's the craft foam that I'll be cutting, and I'm not sure you can see, but it says that this is 2mm thick, and that will work really well on my Cricut Maker. I'm going to take off the packaging, and then my craft foam actually has these staples in. I don't really want to put staples through my Cricut. That seems like it could be a bit risky, so I'm just going to cut them out. If you have a staple remover, that would be a better way to go than actually by taking out squares of the foam, but I don't have one, so I'm working with what I've got. To put the foam on the mat, use a strong grip mat, which is the purple ones, and then I'm going to put this a little bit off of the top and the left so that I've got room to tape it down. I'm using a brayer to push it down really firmly. I really need this to be stuck still so that it doesn't move. And then I'm going to take some washi tape and go along every single edge, pushing it down really firmly. If you don't have washi tape, you could use masking tape or painter's tape, but it's really important that you get your foam stuck because this is a thick material and we don't want it moving inside the Cricut as it goes through, as that will affect the cut and it could also damage the machine. Next we need to move the star wheels, so that's those little white wheels. Normally they help the material to feed in, but in this case it would damage and mark the craft foam, so just gently slide them all the way to the edge, and I apologise for the wobbly footage at this point. It's a little bit tricky and they're a little bit stiff, but once they're all gone to the edge, this is now ready for us to begin the cut. As I've not cut craft foam on my Cricut before, I want to start with just a test. So I'm going to go into shapes and choose a star, and then I'll just use this to cut out just to check that my blade is going through the foam properly and that it's all going to work for the mask. To cut with craft foam, go to Make It, and here is my design. My foam is A4, the sheet, so I'll just change that to A4 and then press continue. It'll connect to my Cricut machine, and then as this is the Maker, I can go browse all materials and I'm going to search for foam and then craft foam, click done. We need to tell the Cricut to use the knife blade because it doesn't load that as default. So with craft foam selected, go into Edit Tools under Load Tools and Materials, and then click on the knife blade. Remember that this only works for the Maker or Maker 3. and then press on apply, and that will change it for you. So now you'll need to load the knife blade into the machine. To load the knife blade, you need to take out the blade that you've already got in there and then bring in the knife blade with its housing. Take off the little cap at the bottom, and then this goes into that same slot in the Cricut machine, and then close it up. Make sure your blade is pushed kind of all the way down, and then it is ready to start cutting with. So the knife blade is different to other blades on the Cricut machine because this is more like a scalpel, so it can only really go sort of one direction at a time, and then it needs to rotate. So you can see the little wheel at the top is rotating every time it goes to a different direction, and then it's cutting all of the lines one at a time. The knife blade often does several passes by default, so it did the star once and now it's going through and doing it again. And that's because it already knows that the foam is likely to need 2 cuts. So let's just wait for it to finish and then see if it cut through. I'm going to take my weeding tool and just try and pull out the star shape. And look at that, the perfect cut with the knife blade. For cutting the acetate to go for the window in the shaker cards, I'm using this acetate. It's called heat resistant acetate from Crafter's Companion, but any kind of acetate or thin plastic will do. You could even use the protector off of an old Cricut mat if you don't have anything else to use. Just give it a little wipe over first to make sure it doesn't have any dust or dirt on it. I put mine on a standard grip mat, so a green mat. You see I've got it on here and I've cut it out. This just needed the standard blade that comes with the Cricut, so just the standard fine point blade. And I cut it on the acetate setting and it cut through beautifully. You can probably not see because it's see-through, but it cut through absolutely perfect. Here's my card all cut out and I've led all the layers in position. I decided after cutting it that I didn't like the colours I'd chosen in Design Space for the eggs, so I redid them in yellow and purple to better match with my background. So for each of these eggs, we've got the base piece, then the foam, then the acetate, and then the bit to go on top. And then underneath are the layers of the card, which I'm going to stick together first. For this, I'm going to use my tape runner. It's just a bit quicker and easier to get this into place. So just run my tape along here. And stick it in the middle of my darker purple. Not very good at lining things up. I don't think that's too bad. And then this will go in the middle of the base card. I've used a piece of scrapbook paper which is patterned on the inside. It's quite light, so I probably could write my message on there, but I'll probably end up doing it on a separate piece of white card and just sticking it in the middle. And I liked how all the purples looked together. That's actually why I didn't like the colours that I chose in Design Space, the blue and the bright orange, because it didn't match with that paper. Let's put this again, try and get it in the middle. Ish. The nice thing about a busy pattern in the background is it's harder to tell if it's not completely straight. That looks okay, I think. Yeah. All right, so base card, super simple, done. Let's get started on these little eggs. And to start with, I'll add the foam. And you'll want some glue for this. And when you're gluing it on, throwing it away. When you're adding the glue to the foam, make sure there are no gaps in the glue at all, especially if you're going to be using glitter, because if there's any gaps in the glue, that means your glitter can escape. And we all know that glitter does its absolute best to end up everywhere except where you actually want it to go. So we'll try and avoid any gaps. This is just going to go on top of my little bottom piece and push it down. Want that glue to spread out nicely so there's no gaps, but I don't want it to smush inside like it has done a little bit there. Just realised I should probably zoom in so you can see a bit better what I'm doing. That's better. Next is the next is not the acetate. Don't stick the acetate on next. Next, we need to fill up our little shaker. And I've got some sequins that you can add in whatever you want. I've got some kind of white colour. What else have we got? Purple. And another purple. Some pink. And I could probably, just checking, get away with some light pink as well. So lots and lots of colour sequins. And just going to add a little pinch of each colour into my shaker. And actually, whilst I'm doing this, going to just glue the other one on too, so I can do them both at the same time. Otherwise I've got to try and open all these little bags of sequins twice. Okay. Again, I'm just being really careful that there's no gaps in here. This is one of those projects where the glue kind of ends up all over your fingers. Right. Sequins in there. I'm not using glitter because it will get everywhere. Sequins are nice and big and much easier. So just a little pinch of all the colours. If you don't want to use multiple colours, that's fine. You could just use one or two. You could also put in things like seed beads or I don't know, sand maybe? Nah, sand would definitely find its way out. Coloured sand. Little gemstones maybe. Anything that's little and can shake. Confetti would work. You could maybe even cut your own confetti shapes out of party foil or something to go in there. Those. You don't want to completely overfill it. Remember, it does actually need room to shake, to move. And you don't want it to become taller than the foam, otherwise your acetate's not going to fit on. I've just about got enough room for one more colour. Going to be finding sequins for weeks. Alright, there we go. So I'm just going to give that a little wiggle to make sure it's not taller than my foam anywhere. And now we can put the acetate on. So again, add the glue all the way around. Make sure there's no gaps. That's one. My acetate, you can sort of see in the light. That's just going to go on top. Ooh, completely messed that up. Gentle push down. And this is where you can kind of see why we've got the outline piece to go on top, and it's just to cover up where you can see the glue through. And then a little bit more glue around the edge for the top layer of cardstock. You don't need to worry too much about the gaps in this one because we've already sealed all those sequins. This is just to stick it on top to cover up the glue on the foam. So whiz that round there. Put the two tops on. Wondering if there's a right way round on these. I think one of them's a little bit fatter than the other. Ah, that's so cute. Right, I'm not going to shake them yet. I want that glue to dry. So I'm just going to pause for a moment, let that dry, and then come back. My little shaker eggs are all dry now, so let's get them stuck on the card. I love how they look. That's such a good noise. They shake really nicely. All those colours in, and I'm really, really happy. And when you look at them from the side, you've got the colour of the foam shining through. I'm simply going to glue these to the front of my card. They're already quite thick because of the foam, so I don't want to add any more dimension or they might get a little bit expensive to post. One up there. And throw the other one away. One more at the bottom. Lots of glue because they are a little bit heavy. And there, my shaker Easter card is finished. I might add a little sentiment up here before I end up giving it to someone, but I love it. So sparkly and a little bit different. Before we finish, let's take a look at the other shaker designs which are included. I didn't use them for this card, but I have cut them out so they could be used on other cards. So we've already seen the eggs. I've just cut them out here a bit bigger in some other colours. I love this one. It's almost like a dragon egg. Lots of blue and silver in it, or like a mermaid or something. And the sequins move so well. This one you probably can't really see, but there's some little unicorn-shaped sequins in there. So there's those two. We've also got the bunny. There he is. And the chick, where the sequins go in the egg. And to add the eyes and the beak, you just stick those little bits over the holes. And there he is. And then finally, my favourite one of the bunch is the daffodil. And the reason I like this one is that all the little petals are separate, so you can add different shakers in. So I've got gold, yellow and orange. Shaky shake, and they all move separately and they'll all stay within their individual petals. So there we go. Easter shaker card toppers done. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial on how to make shaker toppers with your Cricut machine. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel for loads more Cricut craft projects. I hope to see you tomorrow for day 10, the final day of the Easter craft countdown. Trust me, you do not want to miss that project. It's a little bit of an impressive one. Thank you for watching. Bye!